The country you call Iran has existed for over 3,000 years under a different name. But in 1935, a single letter changed everything. No war, no revolution, no treaty, just a piece of paper sent to every embassy in the world. And overnight, one of the oldest civilizations on Earth vanished from the maps, or so it seemed, because the name Persia was never theirs to begin with. It was a label invented by foreigners, and the people who actually lived there had a different name for themselves all along. This is not just the story of a name change. It is the story of a civilization that was mislabeled, conquered by empire after empire, and still refused to disappear. The Iranian plateau has been inhabited for over 4,000 years, longer than Rome existed, longer than Christianity has been practiced. Most people in the West know it through a single word: Persia. A word coined by ancient Greeks to describe one small province of a much larger world. So why did it take until the 20th century to correct the record? And why, when they finally did it trigger an identity crisis that has never fully resolved? Around 2000 BCE, nomadic tribes migrated onto the Iranian plateau, speaking Proto-Indo-European languages, the same linguistic ancestors of Latin, Greek, and Portuguese. Two groups rose to dominance. The Medes settled in the northwest. The Persians settled further south in a province called Pars. And from that single province, that one corner of a vast territory, the Greeks coined the name that would define the entire civilization for the next 2.5 millennia. But the people themselves called their homeland Iriana, land of the nobles, a name embedded in their scripture, their poetry, their royal inscriptions. While the outside world was busy using the wrong word, the civilization was quietly preserving the right one. In 550 BCE, a man named Cyrus changed everything. He united the tribes, defeated the Medes, and built the first true superpower in human history. At its peak, the Achaemenid Empire covered 5.5 million square kilometers. 44% of the entire world's population lived under its rule, a proportion no empire in history has matched since. And Cyrus did not govern through terror. He issued what historians call the world's first declaration of human rights, granting conquered peoples the right to keep their gods, their languages, their customs. The Greeks called it Persia. The label spread through their histories, their wars, their philosophy. And because Greek civilization became the foundation of Western thought, that label stuck, for reasons that had nothing to do with what the people inside the empire called themselves. Then came Alexander. In 334 BCE, a young Macedonian king crossed into Persian territory and destroyed the Achaemenid army in 3 consecutive battles. He burned Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of the empire, to the ground. And then he put on Persian robes. He married Persian princesses. He ordered his generals to do the same. He traveled to the tomb of Cyrus the Great, found it in disrepair, and had it restored, because he did not see himself as Persia's conqueror. He saw himself as its rightful heir. His soldiers nearly mutinied. But Alexander understood something they did not, that the only way to hold an empire this vast was not to erase what came before, but to become it. He died at 32 years old, his vision unfinished. His generals divided the empire, but the language survived, the culture survived, the administrative systems survived almost entirely intact, and that became the defining pattern of this civilization. Empire after empire rose and fell across this plateau. Greeks, Arabs, Mongols, Turks, each one arrived as a conqueror, and each one eventually found itself governing through Persian systems, speaking Persian words, building in Persian styles. You could defeat this people in battle. You simply could not defeat what they carried inside them. In 637 CE, Arab Muslim armies ended Persian dynastic rule. Arabic became the official language of religion and government. the ancient Zoroastrian faith gave way to Islam. To outside observers, it looked like the final erasure. But here is what actually happened. Within 200 years, a poet named Ferdowsi wrote the Shahnameh, 100,000 verses of Persian history, composed almost entirely without Arabic loanwords, not by accident, by choice. Persian identity had gone underground and come back as literature, the one weapon no army knows how to confiscate. And that survival set up the next move, because now a new dynasty was ready to use that identity as a weapon of its own. In 1501, Shah Ismail I did something no Persian ruler had dared before. He declared Shia Islam the official state religion, in a region that was 90% Sunni. He imported foreign scholars, restructured mosques, and reshaped society from the ground up. His own generals thought he had lost his mind, but Ismail understood exactly what he was doing. He was not just changing a religion, he was building a permanent wall between Persian identity and the Arab world that surrounded it. A wall that would make Iran impossible to absorb, impossible to erase, and impossible to ignore. Under Shah Abbas I, Iran became one of the most powerful empires on earth, a direct geopolitical counterweight to the Ottoman superpower to the west. And quietly, in royal inscriptions and political discourse, the ancient name began reappearing. Iriana, Iran, a word that connected the Shia Persian present directly to the pre-Islamic imperial past. The duality was now fully formed. Persia for the outside world, Iran for the people inside it. All that remained was for someone to force the world to close the gap. By the 20th century, Reza Shah Pahlavi was determined to modernize his country at any cost. He built railroads, secularized schools, and modeled his reforms on Ataturk's Turkey. He wanted Iran seen as a sovereign modern nation, not an exotic relic from someone else's ancient story. So in March of 1935, he sent a circular to every foreign embassy in the world. From this point forward, his country was to be called Iran. The backlash was immediate. Iranian intellectuals argued that abandoning Persia meant abandoning Cyrus, Darius, and 3,000 years of recorded greatness. Western scholars protested the loss of a geographic name older than Rome. But Reza Shah's logic was precise. Persia was a label the West had used for centuries to frame this civilization as exotic and backward. Iran was the name the people had always used for themselves. It was not an invention, it was a correction. Within a year, the maps had changed. And then 1979 arrived. The Islamic Revolution, the hostage crisis, sanctions, decades of confrontation. In the Western imagination, Iran became synonymous with threat, and in that shadow, something unexpected happened. Persia became romantic again. Diaspora communities across Los Angeles, London, and Toronto began calling themselves Persian, not out of denial, out of a quiet refusal to let someone else's politics define a civilization that had outlasted every empire on Earth. A 2009 Gallup survey found that the majority of Iranian Americans still preferred the term Persian in social settings, more than 70 years after the name had officially changed. Two names, one land, one question that has never been answered. The plateau that sheltered Cyrus, survived Alexander, absorbed Islam, and outlasted the Mongols is still there. Every conqueror who tried to erase it is gone. Persia didn't disappear from the map. It disappeared from the name, while everything it ever was stayed exactly where it had always been. If this is the kind of history that never made it into your textbook, the stories behind the stories history forgot to tell, subscribe. There is a lot more where this came from.